My question is for the force side. Assuming practicality that the sanctions are now becoming squishy, do you think it's worse to flex American muscle than to allow the Middle East to go into a nuclear arms race?
I don't know what you mean by sanctions getting squishy. We can argue all night about sanctions that have worked in some cases and not worked in others, and there are all kinds of variables that take too much time to come into play. But I would mention just one example, and we've cited it in other ways in the past. Libya. That was a successful use of sanctions against Gaddafi, and he made this tremendous turn away from his previous outrageous behavior with regard to his unconventional weapons programs, weapons of mass destruction, and his rampant involvement in international terrorism. And back in the 1990s, after several years of multilateral sanctions, in which he felt both the economic hurt and the political hurt of being a pariah, he changed. He got out of the international terrorism business, and he opened up and gave up his unconventional weapons program. And that was all without use or even the threat of military force. That was a successful case.
That's a fanciful chronology. He gave up his weapons program after a massive application of American force in 2003. It was the example of the invasion of Iraq that turned him. And by the way, it was also
that
the example.
Factually wrong.
It was also the invasion of Iraq that compelled the Iranians to stop their weaponization program.
I know it is wrong because I was personally involved in the negotiations with the Libyans back in 1999.
I was
4 years before that.
I was personally involved with the
4 years before that,
with negotiations.
And that was after
Mike, wait, we've got some real insiders here. Mike, will you wait? And Paul, you make your point. I'll come back to you. Brett, hang on. Paul.
Gaddafi made those decisions in the 1990s. When I sat down across the table from his intelligence chief, he had already decided to get out of the unconventional weapons programs and get out of international terrorism. That was 4 years before the invasion of Iraq.
Mike Doran.
His intelligence chief, Musa Kusa, was his name. Great name, yeah, Musa Kusa. Musa Kusa once had a beautiful villa overlooking the Mediterranean. And he came home one day to his villa, and it was turned into rubble, bulldozed into nothing, right? And there was a message for him that the leader wants to see you. And so he went to go see the leader. And the leader said, Musa, that villa. And he said, yes. He said, I didn't like it. It wasn't right for you. And he handed him some keys, and he said, I've built another villa for you, and I want you to have that. And he gave him this other villa. And so what was the message? The message was, don't get too big for your britches. Everything you've got comes from me. Everything. And I can destroy you in an instant. That's the mentality of a leader in the Middle East. And you've got to ask yourself, if that's who we're dealing with, do we deal with them with soft power or do we deal with them with hard power?